Oh, and yeah, I think the 5G towers are going to mimic radiation poisoning. Because I agree with Vox that if they're going to try and get people to go to war, they're going to need something huge. And there are no nuclear bombs. I know a lot of people disagree with me about that. Hiroshima and Nagasaki had no fallout. There was no rise in cancer rates. I know people lie. Oh, how dare you? Flora and fauna never left. Hummingbirds still lived there in 1946. All right. And they weren't even in the top 10 most destroyed cities in Japan. They were firebombs. Boom, big explosions and lies. I've done whole streams on it. I should do another one because that's what they're drumming up. Now, can uranium be very toxic? Yes. You can put them in shells. It can fuck with your thyroid. Yeah, totally. But not the way they describe it. So you can have giant explosions, huge bombs, and then quote unquote radiation fallout, but you require energy to have radiation fallout. Where do you get the energy? I really analyzed this a while ago. Why are they putting up all these 5G towers? And then I have bears that literally put up the 5G towers. I got bears everywhere. And the current frequency they're using isn't really too bad unless you're right next to it. The range is pretty small. And they're not healthy, but it's a small range and it's not the end of the world. It is what it is. Like little birds still live around them. I always go with the canary in the coal mine analysis where if small birds, small animals, little things can live around something, a 250-pound man will be just fine. Because that's how, it always affects, for those of you that don't know, miners used to bring a canary into the coal mine because when they would hit poisonous gas, the canary would die and then they'd all have to leave because the canary would die a lot faster than the adult males. So that's how I avoided the 5G panic, because in areas where the 5G towers are in operation, small animals still live around there. Now, I don't think it's healthy, but it is what it is. Now, this is when things get disturbing. Okay, there was a lieutenant general that made a report saying that it looked like a firebomb city, like all the other firebomb cities. It was also witnessed who said they had sprayed liquid on the city the day before it was fireballed. Of course, he ended up dead. Yeah, I mean, Crow just had on a woman who survived the Nagasaki explosion. Her mother was in the factory when it happened, like the Mitsubishi factory, lost teeth over it, lived to be 95, no cancer. And she was talking about how the culture reacted to it. You know, the survivors, quote unquote, had a hard time getting married because they were assumed to be sterile or that they would die, when in reality their rates were, it was just like COVID. They just manufactured these rates to sell the story of a bomb. Why did they use Nagasaki? Because Nagasaki, you want to hear my gravy? You want to hear my deep analysis that I can't prove? I can easily prove that there are no nuclear bombs as described. Total joke. I don't know, little birds could get turbo cancer. Okay, whatever. Okay, anyway. What was I just talking about? And I'll get to the 5G. There is something to worry about with 5G. Bad. I'll get to it. But it's not the way the truthers describe it. Okay, super gravy theory. Okay, so what is special about Nagasaki? When they go, oh, they attacked a Christian city. All these fucking Christians love to be victims. The Jew was trying to kill Christians. No. That's where the Jesuits and the Catholics had made a stronghold. Okay, so the Japanese shogun, the Japanese emperor, the Japanese system knew what the Pope was all about. The Pope made claim for centuries on Japan, and Japan fought them off. Now, the one port that had a lot of Jesuits, don't say Christians, say Jesuit. It's not the rural Idahoans who pray at dinner. Okay, these word games, it's like saying America is building a wall to keep the Christians out from Mexico. It's retarded. Imagine how crazy that would be if it was Donald Trump is going to build a wall to keep the Christians from coming into America and freeing us from the Jew. Those Mexicans calling them Christian and not the migrants that they are is absurd. Okay, so what happened? So the Pope was making claim threw his Jesuit army on Japan. Japan wanted none of it, but Japan was trading with the Dutch and the Portuguese. And the Dutch and the Portuguese traders were informing the shogun and the emperor what was going on with the Pope. And it was all centered around Nagasaki. Because I believe we live in a free will realm. This is why I'm so concerned about our government becoming so corrupt. Because the leadership of the government, when no one challenges them, can make decisions that can really fuck up your life. So Nagasaki was the hub of the Jesuits' attempt to overthrow Japanese homogeny and bring in the multicultural hell that you see that they do all over the world. It's not Christians, it's the Jesuits. Okay? I think that behind closed doors, there is a chance that the emperor agreed to the quote unquote bomb. I think it was presented to him that they could take out the Jesuits and end the war because Japan was getting hammered during World War II. And Tokyo, way more destroyed than Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Hiroshima and Nagasaki were not in the top 10. Sam Tripoli is right for once. No, Sam Tripoli can be right sometimes, but it's not the Jesuit. No, he says the Jesuit because he can't say or else he'll lose his money. I swear to God, the spam callers only call when I'm listening to the stream. That's hilarious. Christians are taught that they'll know if they're doing Christianity right if they're being persecuted. Yeah, I know, which is bullshit. I mean, it's if you're being persecuted by the devil, that's one thing. Like, if you're being persecuted by the evil of this world, yeah, that's a good position. But if you're being persecuted by a nation that doesn't want you there and you're attempting to overthrow them and install your satanic world order, then no. When there's all kinds of guidelines in the Bible about how not to be a total fucking psychopath. You're not even supposed to preach in Rome. Like, render Caesar that which is Caesar, render God that which is God. Okay, so anyway, so why Nagasaki? I think that it lined up with what the emperor wanted too. I think the emperor wanted the Jesuits gone. And the powers that be, the wizards, wanted the spell of the nuclear bomb. Because Japan could have reported that it was a firebombing, which it was. Why didn't they? Why did Japan go along with because the only reporting on the nuclear bomb was from one Lithuanian Jew working for the State Department through the New York Times, according to Roosevelt. This is public knowledge. This is not conspiracy theory. This is a fact. Anybody that reported anything but the official story was executed. Okay, that's the actual history of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. You think it's bad now? You think you got tyranny? Roosevelt made it illegal to own gold, grow wheat, or contradict the official story on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Okay. People on the ground in Japan were saying it was firebombing just like every other bombing. Why didn't they report that in their media? That means they must have colluded on some level. So what would Japan get out of it? An end to the war because the Russians had just invaded Manchuria 48 hours after, and they hated that the Jesuits were making a base for invasion in Nagasaki. So the spellcraft hit. Why do you know it was spellcraft? Because there was no mass evacuation from Nagasaki or Hiroshima after the bombing. Life went on right after. If nuclear bombs are what they claim to be, they would have been toxic waste dumps for centuries, thousands of years, millions of years. They weren't. Nagasaki and Hiroshima had open markets of produce the year they were bombed, after they were bombed. There was no loss of flora, fauna, birds, deer, nothing. That's a fact. The water was not polluted. The fresh water was still drinkable. Fact. There were people that were there that lived to be 100 years old without cancer. Now, is there elements of isotopes that cause thyroid disease? Yes. Are there giant bombs? Yes. Is radiation poisoning a thing? Yes. Does it require power, energy, electricity? Yes. What is radiation? Radiation in the infrared is heat. So you can have radiation poisoning from a fire because it's heat, like a firebombing. Boom. Radiation is the burning of flesh. Now, radiation can also be in the visual light spectrum all the way to gamma rays. So it goes radio waves, infrared. Radio waves are really long waves, crest and trough, long. They're long. Faster is infrared. That's heat. Lizards can see it. You can see infrared heat. Like there's certain animals that can see heat signatures. There's drones that can see heat signatures because it is a spectrum of light. Then the visual light spectrum is very small, and then you have ultraviolet, which is the frequency, which is the rate of crest and troughs. Amplitude is how big the wave is. Frequency is how fast the wave is. Lower frequency, higher frequency. Low amplitude, high amplitude. That's what amplitude and frequency means. Okay, so ultraviolet, you start getting, that's higher than violet. That's why it's called ultraviolet. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Anything faster frequency than violet is ultraviolet. And then you get into X-rays, which is what is shot through your body to get an X-ray. It's also, you have microwaves in that realm where you can cook food. And then you have gamma rays, which are the fastest frequency where you can boil water with a small amount of atoms, isotopes. Okay, so what is required for the type of radiation poisoning that has been lied about by the nuclear bomb? And I know people will call me crazy for saying that nuclear bombs aren't real. They're not real as described. Now, you can have heat burns, but ultraviolet requires energy. Okay, where's the energy going to come from? So this is the scary thing about 5G. 5G as being operated right now is not a big deal. You'll have more problems with your body by ingesting one beer, in my opinion. I don't think 5G is healthy, but it's not the end of the world. Vaccines, drugs, alcohol, stress, the fear of 5G, in my opinion, is worse than the 5G. Okay, that being said, what makes them scary? By the way, it's episode 1339, How to Fake World War III. That was from 1 year, 3 months ago, and I think we're getting closer and closer because Vox is more of one of the high IQ strategy types, and I'm more of like a dreamer, wizard killer. And now when both of our thoughts are kind of merging, you know that something's going on. Because Vox likes to look at logistics, history of war, his literary background, all that stuff. And I'm more of a dreamer, rhetoric, spellbreaker type who can say wild stuff. And then years later, you're like, holy shit, there's truth to this, right? And we're both talking about a potential false flag to get America into World War III. Because you can't just say, we got to fight Russia. The military has been too degraded by the LGBT horse shit, the vaccines, and fat black women doing 8 push-ups and being allowed to be Marines. It's not working, okay? We all know it's not working. So if they need people, you got to get that red, white, and blue to squirt. 5G is yesterday's news. They're throwing around 10G propaganda. But what is scary about 5G? I'll tell you, because I know people that install them. I know highly technical people that understand 5G completely who are truthers and bears. Okay, the frequency they're transmitting is not super harmful. The harm is way more propaganda at your fingertips. Now, what is the scary part? They're installed with a frequency band that's way higher, and it's for military use. Okay. What, pray tell, would that be for? Okay, so right now the faster frequency can carry more data. Radio waves can, like AM is the longest wave, the longest wave, lowest frequency versus 5G. Okay, long waves can go far distances. You can have an AM radio wave go 1,000 miles. But it can carry very little data. It can carry the sound of a man's voice, and it's kind of crackly. Then you have FM, which is faster, but it's still radio waves. Shorter distance, but carries more data. And then you get to the visual light spectrum. Then you keep going until you get to the frequencies required for Wi-Fi. You carry way more data, but it doesn't go as far. That's why you need cables. You can have Wi-Fi in small areas, like from a tower. 5G carries way more data, but the radius is smaller. That's why you need 5G towers constantly in cities. Okay, they have an ability of turning it up where they could boil meat. Why would you possibly want that? Okay. I think on the table, and by observing this, it may make it not happen, which is cool. It's why I'm talking about it, because it would be horrifying. They could pop a quote unquote nuke, which the way I see it, the way the Satanist operates is they're all contract based. It's hard to admit this, but a very, very few amount of quote unquote civilians died in 9/11. Dude, let's just go for it. I'm going to explain some shit to you guys right now. Okay. They feel justified killing cops, firefighters, military. That's why you wear dog tags. They consider you a dog. They think that if you sign up with the legal ability of killing people, firefighters are less like this. There's a spectrum. They still consider firefighters on the table. But if you sign up to be able to legally shoot people in foreign countries, you get to be killed by them. That's how they view it. Then cops, then firefighters, then EMTs. But if you're wearing a uniform, they believe you've consented to the game. You're on the chessboard, okay? Then you have citizens. If you vote, if you are registered to vote, you're on the chessboard, but just not as much, okay? So when the towers drop, why did they use those towers? One, they wanted them down, and two, they could do it without killing very many citizens. It was like less than 3,000 total people. Many of them were firefighters, EMTs, first responders, which they believe is on the table. Okay, so what do I see coming with what could potentially happen? So I think they'd pop a quote-unquote nuke that appeared really scary. They require something that looks terrifying that people have seen 1,000 times in movies. Why do they do pre-programming? Why has there been over 200 movies where the World Trade Center fell and planes hit the World Trade Center? Because they're training your brain to think that's possible. Why did they make these books? Why did they make these books before going to the moon? Because they wanted you to believe it was possible before they show it to you, because these are very risky events. Okay, so the World Trade Centers were mostly empty when they fell. That's a little known fact. They were massively empty. Okay, so they're not looking to kill a ton of Americans, because what it is they're looking for consent. The devil operates in a consent-based realm. So what do I believe they're going to do? So we've been trained to see a mushroom cloud and think that's a nuclear bomb. Mushroom cloud, mushroom cloud, mushroom cloud, mushroom cloud. This and then, right? You can recreate mushroom clouds with large amounts of TNT. That's what a mushroom cloud is. Mushroom clouds are not, do not represent a different type of bomb. It just is what it is. So bang, you create a mushroom cloud, and then I believe you associate it with an iconic structure. That iconic structure should also be really leveraged in debt or needing to come down anyway. That's how these things work. The contracts, the liabilities, they start stacking up on a bridge, a building, whatever, a dam, whatever it is, and they want to destroy it, and they're going to leverage that emotional connection with it in another event to make more money on. It's called salvage. You're salvaging a ship. So a ship crashes, you salvage it for scrap. Let's say you have two buildings that you want to come down. They're filled with asbestos, they're horribly designed, whatever. So you're like, what can we get out of those two buildings? You double insure them, like Lucky Larry. You have the emotional connection to those buildings, and then you drop them to get people to choose to go to a war, sign the Patriot Act, and get way more power and money. That's how the psychopath thinks. It's how can you leverage? Like, in your life, you know who people who do this. You've seen this in the bear community. You leverage that you're a Christian to become a bear, to leverage to use someone for something. This is why I highlighted Slick Rick and Rim Job and those guys, because it's a psychopathic behavior that people do. It's like, oh, I'm friends with so-and-so. I'm friends with Curtis Stone. Let me help out. No problem. I'm a Christian. I follow Jesus. So people are like, okay, you're leveraging a brand. No offense, but Jesus is a brand that you associate with being a good person. And then you make a connection. Oh, I know this person. This is my friend. Okay, you're now welcome to be a part of our community. Then you take that and leverage that for money somewhere else. And then you blow up your connection to the community for clout somewhere else. It's psychopathic behavior. Hey, fellow chickens. Yeah. I know I'm rambling a little bit, but once you understand this, it's going to be incredible. So what is the scariest thing about a nuclear bomb? Because what they realized in World War II is the more they bombed London, the more English people wanted to fight. Because when you blow something up, and if people don't die, they want to reproduce really quickly, and they become fearless. That's a little known fact about death, is when you're actually surrounded by it, you start not fearing it. That's why in order to create a perfect slave society, you remove death from society. You don't look at dead bodies. You're like scared of it. You don't look at that, and you keep people scared of death. Okay? If you bring the death to people and you explode shit around them, the fear washes away, and they actually become somewhat superhuman. That's why bombing doesn't actually work. It's all about psychological programming. So they can't just like bomb you and get you scared. That has the opposite effect. So they want to program you to a degree. And who's they? Just the farmers of men. I don't know their names. I think it's on a spiritual level. I think humans, the higher up you go in the pyramid, the more they're dupes, the more they're empty vessels for demonic entities. I don't care. It's not about a person. It's about a swarm. You know, Bill Gates is replaceable, and you can already see him falling, and someone else will just take his spot. They're all like puppets. So the 5G ability of raising the frequency to radiate human skin, I believe would be the ultimate in mind control and population control. Imagine if they pop a quote unquote mushroom cloud around something with an emotional connection. I always thought the Golden Gate Bridge, because the Golden State Warriors, I know that this gets esoteric, but the blue and the gold, just like Ukraine, they changed the logo on the bridge recently. It's destroyed in like 50 movies. It's in your subconscious. Okay, now, the Federal Reserve is in New York. You know, some people think, like Vox was talking about how they're not going to go after New York, LA, DC. I actually disagree. I think that they won't actually attack people or kill people there, but just like in New York City, they went right in the downtown of New York City to do the PSYOP because they had control there. TMZ means 10-mile zone in LA. They control that zone. That's why I was telling people not to go to Ottawa, not to go to DC, because they control those areas. Okay, and they can run scripts. They're not really going to kill Nancy Pelosi. They could potentially do a thing where the Russians have bombed the Statue of Liberty. That would be a great one. You know, something that they could, as an emotional connection. Okay, so now what would be the use of 5G with false radiation? Okay, think about how perfect this would be for their intent. You could now have a cloud, quote unquote, of radiation. Radiation requires energy. It's not an element that disperses really quickly. Okay, if you're right next to uranium, it can get in certain isotopes. It can affect your thyroid in massive doses. Galen Windsor has shown people he can eat plutonium and it's less deadly than no-dose caffeine. Literally. All right? But if you have the energy and the frequency to do it, and it's hiding in plain sight, the 5G towers are everywhere. You crank up the frequency, people's skin starts peeling, boiling. It doesn't even have to kill the people. You can just have rashes on your body, because I don't think they're looking to kill people. I don't think they're allowed to. I don't think they're allowed to just kill people that haven't consented. I think they do from time to time, but I think it's frowned upon in the satanic world. It's all about getting God's creation to choose to rebel against God, or else they don't really win. Okay, so imagine a world where you get people completely terrified because some people think they're going to end the grid. No chance. They need to program you. They need the internet in order to give you these images. If you didn't see those planes hitting those buildings over and over and over again, you wouldn't have signed the Patriot Act and shot Habib, okay? Because he didn't want to watch porn or take out debt. They need to keep the grid going because that's how they get the programming into you. So what do I think they're going to do? Bang, hit a highly emotional target with a mushroom cloud, say it's the Russians. Now, a lot of people would cheer if New York was hit, DC was hit, LA was hit. So how do you get the homegrown Americans really angry? You have a cloud of radiation go through the Midwest, where all the warriors live, where all the people live that won't fight, the grab wars. So you have a wave of radiation that's already been programmed in people's heads. And it's not really going to be killing people. It's going to be causing it. They're going to do just enough where people sell it. It's like putting the inflated tire at the base of the World Trade Center. These people are like magicians. They're not really doing this shit. Remember the Pentagon? There was no fucking plane wreckage and people still bought it. Jesus Christ, BB, I hope you're wrong. I'm not wrong. Us pointing this out could make it not happen, but this is clearly being designed. Okay, so 5G has a frequency range that's used for the military that makes no sense for data transfer. Okay, and it's very close to the tower. So if you're not around the towers, you wouldn't be affected. Imagine if they could have a radiation cloud, which doesn't exist, pass over areas of America. And then this is when it gets really interesting. No-go zones. They say this area, just like what they did with Chernobyl, this area is now radioactive and you can't go there. You want to talk Agenda 2030? That's how you can shut off entire corridors of America, is with this bullshit fake nuke. It's all coming together, guys. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. I can't see the future. But pop a fake nuke. Somehow the grid keeps working. Blame Russia, try and start a world war, and while you're doing that, you're controlling the entire population with a radiation cloud manifested by 5G towers. Now you have an ability to quarantine anyone, anytime, because the COVID won't work again. You have 15-minute cities. This is how you do it. The COVID thing won't work. You're not going to get vaccines in people's arms again. They ran that through. And a bunch of people didn't do it, but way more people did it than they possibly could have imagined. Maybe they'll blame Elon Musk and SpaceX. No, it'll be Russia, China, engage in a quote unquote World War III to lower the world population, to get all the type of men that want to fight dead. Okay, then they have a lower, I know it's getting intense, but just watch out for this. Then they get a lower population that's easy to control with the idea of radioactive corridors of America. And it's all from those towers. So if you're not around those towers, you won't have radiation issues. And from that one highly emotional visual pop of a mushroom cloud. And that's my theory. And a year and a half ago, when I first proposed this theory, some real gravy ladlers got it, but a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're really out there, Big Bear." At this point, you're seeing it, because they want 15-minute cities, ability to control movement of population. A lot of people are not buying the electric car. A lot of people are not buying central bank digital currency. A lot of people are not buying the vaccine agenda. What's going to do it? What does everyone believe is real? Even truthers believe the nuclear bombs are real. Highly opposed to the mainstream story truthers believe the nuclear bomb is real. And if you told them that there was fallout radiation in an area, they would not go there. So how is this an opportunity for us? The opportunity for us is obvious. If you know it's fake, the world's yours, my friend. All the benefits that they, quote unquote, get from it, you get too. I think 5G has more to do with AI, but this does. No, you didn't hear what I said, Charles. There's a range that is not being used that does not make any sense for data transfer. I know, I went through the whole thing. Oh, maybe 5G is for the Internet of Things and they need way more bandwidth in order to make your car talk to your phone to talk to your refrigerator. No, because the higher the frequency, the shorter the range. So you can't collect data when you're 20 miles out in the country driving your car because the range is 100 meters. Okay? Then why would they have a range that doesn't work with data transfer? It simulates the boiling of skin. Okay? That's what it is. BB, what is considered close by for 5G tower yard? Don't fucking worry about it, dude. The point I'm trying to make is like maybe, I don't know, 100 yards, 50 yards. It's when they start, if, not when. This could totally not happen. And the more you look at it, the more it doesn't happen. It's like a shadow. When you have a flashlight and you look at a shadow, the shadow goes away. That's why I'm talking about this. It's not because I like being identified as someone who can see through bullshit, because that makes my life a little harder. It's because the more people are aware that this is a possibility, the less the possibility comes true. Okay, so what was the question? All right. Oh, yeah. The Satanist doesn't just kill you, or that's not how it works. It's all by consent. Like you just saw that with the vaccine. They need you to choose it. So they're not just going to flip a switch and boil all your skin. They're going to create enough reality to it to sell the narrative so you choose to abandon your area. You never legally have to abandon your area. Okay? If you need work, boiling skin crisis actors will be available soon. Yeah, or just like make your skin feel hot, you know? Like if you're near a 5G tower, they could potentially, because they have directed energy stuff for crowd dispersal. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is a military grade weapon where you can point energy weapons at crowds and it makes them hot. It makes their skin feel hot. And then they run away. They do the same thing with sound waves. That's a fact. I know people who do it. Okay? It's not the amount of power required to actually boil the skin of millions of people does not exist on the earth. This would require a tremendous amount of energy. Okay? It's kind of like the energy required to do this scam of radiation poisoning is unimaginable. That's why they're not going to there's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't be afraid, but it's something to watch out for, because if they're trying to get you to go to war, they need a highly emotional attack. That attack has to resonate as true. And right now, people retardedly still think nuclear bombs are real and fallout is a real thing. Okay, that's why one of the reasons I think I was so hyper silenced, I think I lost a platform right after doing the nuclear bomb episode. On these platforms that have gangbang porn, okay? So it's not because they're good people. Crowd dispersal tech used in the military in their own countries in the 60s even. Oh, yeah. No, it's a fact. There's directed energy weapons that make your skin feel like it's on fire and you run away from them and they can just go like that. Okay. Now imagine if you had a control board where you could do that neighborhood by neighborhood in cities and get people to move based on the lie. And if they don't know it's the tower and they think it's the bomb, there's no way for anyone to fight against it. What's more dangerous, the tiger you see or the tiger you don't see? It's the tiger you don't see. So if they're just torturing people with directed energy weapons and everybody knows where the weapon is, they would destroy the weapon eventually. We're an armed, gritty population here in America. Now, if you don't know where the weapon is coming from, which is what the Christian right wing has done to America, like you don't know that Ted Cruz is a flaming faggot who wants to bomb anyone that won't let someone rape someone in the ass without getting executed. Okay? If you believe Ted Cruz is spreading the word of Jesus Christ, you are walking into a trap. This is why it's important to call out the shills. Because they all use idol worship. They all say, well, if Ted Cruz says it, it must be right-wing and conservative. Where Ted Cruz is far, far more liberal and degenerated than Barack Obama. You'll know something's coming when they start deplatforming you after they've just... Yeah, but Boar Bear, they've gotten themselves into a real conundrum. It's chess, dude. Chess, but towards the end of a chess game, there's not a lot of moves you can make. And they had to start replatforming people and creating this false Elon Musk truth bullshit. Because if they don't get the real men to buy in to their narratives, their story, their system, they can't get anybody to fight. So yeah, you have a point, but the thing about me is if they start deplatforming me again and all the other people, that's why they just started allowing people to question election integrity, because they were going to have a low turnout. You think we're the only ones that saw through the scam of we have to vote for Trump because they stole the election last time? Okay? We've been through it though. Yeah. And I'm not replatformed on YouTube or Facebook or Airbnb or PayPal. Like, I'm still a very outside character, and my the algorithms keep me suppressed. But I think that they're in a position where if they do too much hands-on censorship, here's another one of my predictions, is I think their force ability is almost zero at this point. Like, their ability to actually force you to do stuff is very low. That's why they're doing this soft, feminized fascism. Last time, the hardest part of deplatforming was the newness, the fear of the unknown. Now, though I wouldn't like it, I prepared for it, and too many people are watching now. Yeah, and they don't have the capital. They don't have trust. And they need warriors. They need people like us to fight their wars. We're not alone, guys. The bears are kind of a niche group, and I'm not mainstream, but there's a lot of people that are seeing shit now. And the best warriors are good men. You know, you'll get your psychopath that just wants to see pink mist, but usually they're people that want to defend family, God, motherland. And in order to do that, you need tremendous psychological operations. And the more they do them, the less they work. Like, imagine Pearl Harbor now would be nothing. Pearl Harbor in December 7th, 1941, supercharged America. That was a military attack in Hawaii. At this point, no one would give a fuck. They attacked a military base in Hawaii. By 2001, they had to do a grotesque attack on downtown New York, watching people jump out of buildings to get people to go to war. Okay? The next one has to be nuts. And that doesn't mean they're going to kill you. They need you to want to fight. They need your consciousness. All right. Kyneton, do we have super chats? Time to read some mail. I just laid down some serious fucking gravy, and I think it's time to super chat. P.O. Box 490, Sandpoint, Idaho 83864, entropystream.live/app/Owen Benjamin Comedy. Yeah, Nord Stream pipeline, no one cared. You get a supercharged... Dude, remember the Maine? Like, all these things back in the day, you sunk one ship. Every guy was going to war. At this point, to get people... Because the trust has been so eroded. Gulf of Tonkin, they sink one ship, or they attack one American ship in a foreign bay, and we go to war with Vietnam. Okay, and then people found out it was a lie, and so it doesn't work as well. It's like cocaine. It doesn't work as much the next time. And you get a tolerance to the lie. So they're going to, in my opinion, they've gotten their lies to a point where they have to, they fake the pandemic, and next they got to fake the nuke. I don't even think alien invasion will work. I think it's just it's not scary. What's scary? Scary is getting a virus. It's coming. Your neighbor could give it to you, blah, blah, blah. Scary is a cloud of radiation that's just passing by, okay? If you're not near a 5G tower, that shit there will be no effect on you whatsoever. And if you are near a 5G tower, it'll be minimal. It'll just be enough to psychologically get you to run like a herd animal. Like when you're herding cows, all you need to do is shock a couple of them. You don't kill them, then you don't get any milk. You just shock a couple and you get them all to go one direction, and that's it. It's that fucking simple. And I'm not looking to change the world. I'm looking to tribe up and for us to calmly and very gently and very gratefully benefit from these motherfuckers and their wicked, wicked plans. True Bear says, BB, can we please get Paul of Pockets of the Future on UA? No, he never would do that. He's an interesting case. Just enjoy Paul. Don't give him advice. He's an Omega. He doesn't work in teams. But he's great. But it's like, he's just going to do his thing, and wherever he goes, just enjoy it, and that's it. He doesn't even want to hear advice, which I respect. I don't give a fuck. Do your thing, Paul. Listen, but you know, the last thing you would want to do is work on a team. He is an Omega. Omegas don't work in teams. They're outside the hierarchy. My Evil Head says, thanks for all the comedy and gravy. Anytime. Pug Fugly Bear, I keep wondering about the Ambassador Bridge in Detroit. Needs to come down soon anyway. It hasn't been pre-programmed and there isn't an emotional connection to it. It's interesting that many 5G towers are camouflaged to look like cactus trees or church steeples. Yeah, it's like setting up a minefield. Yes. And thank you, Mumsy Bear, Amory, and Wizard Slayer Bear on D Live. Thank you for all the tips. You're not going to get gravy this hot anywhere else. Alien invasion is too complicated to pull off, and there's no fear in it. There's not enough fear in alien invasion. Alien invasion just keeps people connected to the heliocentric model and to the other. Like the UN needs to come together or something like that. It doesn't actually scare you. Carl says, I don't see how anyone can be a public figure. I talked to a neighbor about Owen, and he threw a fit and blamed all his problems on the far right. Long story short, he's a listener now and admits he was just crazy from despair, looking for a reason why his life sucked. The proletariat are weapons. Yeah, but the despair, angry scapegoat guys aren't threatening. They're just threatening to themselves. They self-destruct, which is sad. You know, I'm glad that you introduced him to me and now he's going to grow and be productive and have a family. That's what you want. Don't be scared of the lost people. They're only a threat to themselves. Try and, encourage them to be more productive, but it's not something to fear at all. Okay. Fear your own weakness to your own lies. That's what I fear. And that's a healthy fear. Fear that you can't always see when you're deceiving yourself. That's your enemy. Your enemy isn't some asshole that blames everything on Nancy Pelosi or fucking Ted Cruz. They attacked all small businesses and restaurants during COVID. Yes, but if you didn't close and you followed my advice, you're now super rich. One of my best friends who owns gyms in LA, and if you think that it is easy to keep gyms in Los Angeles open during COVID, but you had to close your fucking construction business in Dallas, you're lying to yourself. He's now like my most successful friend. It's like pruning the tree. He sacrificed. He fucking held the line. He was calm. He learned the law. He allowed people to freak out on him. He kept his gyms open. Telling you right now, my buddy Kevin, he's done my stream. He is crushing so hard right now, it's tough to put into words because what was thrown at him, he would not accept. He didn't wear a mask. He didn't close his gyms. When he's training Los Angeles celebrities, the most paranoid people in the world, and he held the line. He now has inherited wealth. Guys, it's must be nice situation. And he earned every bit of it. And he treats his employees great. He treats his family great. He treats his friends great. He tells the truth. He works hard and he doesn't have fear. So when people say, oh, they were attacking me. No, they weren't. They were giving you an opportunity. And a lot of little bitches are going to pretend that they had to close. You didn't have to close. You never did. Now, I have sympathy and compassion for you if you fell for this spell and you thought that you had to because people would get sick and you were under a spell. Okay, I get it. We've all been under spells. You didn't have to close. A mandate is not a law. They were breaking the law. You could have went, like my buddy was training people on his roof. Okay? You continue to serve your fellow man and you do not accept their fear programming. Everybody else that accepts it will crumble around you like a goddamn house of cards. All right? They will lose their credibility. God will take their mandate to heaven. I've watched it over and over again. Guys, the power of God is a personal thing. My company got flooded with work during the shutdowns, hard to find employees, but holy shit, we ran ragged for a couple years trying to keep up. Exactly. And the fact you provided during a time of fear, now as the fear comes down, now as people start to realize that they were scammed, you want to know who they're going to look back at and say, man, Exterminator Bear, he held the line. Even if they don't consciously think it, they now trust you. They now feel a social sense of obligation to support you. A lot of people that had the fear and shut down, they are now behind you. You took their market, and that's how God works. All right, here's some super chats.